It's noon in Kiev, which means it's time for the latest updates. This is our time on air. My name is Yulia Horovea. Good afternoon. A facility in Chernihiv was damaged as a result of this morning's Russian strikes. A fire broke out there. Also, debris from a downed UAV fell onto a household plot. Last night, a Russian drone hit a residential apartment building in Nizhyn. 2 people were injured. A postal terminal, a store, a delivery service branch, and a car were also damaged. By morning, Russia launched another attack on the city. 1 more person was injured. In total, the Russians shelled the Chernihiv region nearly 60 times in the past 24 hours. More than 20 settlements came under attack. Explosions were also heard in the Poltava region. By morning, Russia carried out a combined missile strike on the region. The target was the energy infrastructure, according to the regional military administration. Oil and gas industry facilities were damaged. Nearly 6,500 consumers in 6 settlements were left without gas supply. There were no casualties or injuries. Last night, Russia used the tactic of repeated strikes. The aggressor targeted firefighters and rescuers who were dealing with the aftermath of previous Russian shelling. This was reported by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. He called on Ukraine's partners to respond to Russian terror and increase pressure on Moscow.
Putin is deaf to everything the world says, so the only language he is still capable of understanding is the language of pressure. Pressure through sanctions, pressure through long-range capabilities. Perhaps strong decisions that will help. And this depends on the United States, on Europe, on all partners whose strength directly affects the end of the war. Volodymyr Zelenskyy, President of Ukraine.
Putin has been unsuccessfully waging a war for 4 years that he planned to win in a week. This was stated by U.S. President Donald Trump. According to him, Russia has already lost about 1.5 million people on the battlefield in Ukraine. This terror must stop, the head of the White House emphasized.
Russia has lost 1.5 million people, mostly soldiers. This is a war that should never have started, but one that Russia was supposed to win in the very first week. It's already the 4th year, and I want this to end. I thought we would make a deal 2 months ago. Who would have thought that I managed to bring peace to the Middle East but can't get these 2 guys to come to an agreement? But I think we'll get it done.
Let me remind you, tomorrow U.S. President Donald Trump will meet with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy in Washington. The leaders will discuss, among other things, the supply of long-range American Tomahawk missiles. Also on the agenda are strengthening Ukraine's air defense and the transfer of new Patriot systems, and assistance to Ukraine in restoring its energy sector. The preparations for the meeting between the 2 leaders were discussed by the head of the Office of the President of Ukraine, Andriy Yermak, and U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio. The parties also talked about increasing pressure on Russia and about security on the European continent.
A very important conversation with the U.S. Secretary of State, who is also serving as the President's National Security Advisor, Marco Rubio. We exchanged views on what the long-term security architecture should look like not only for Ukraine, but for all of Europe. We also discussed steps that could force Russia to end the war. The leadership of the United States and President Donald Trump personally made peace in the Middle East possible. This is exactly the kind of vision Ukraine needs today. Andriy Yermak, head of the Office of the President of Ukraine, on Telegram.
Ukraine's defense industry is powerful and innovative. It is worth investing in, said German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius. According to him, Berlin will allocate 400 million euros for the purchase of long-range drones. This will help Ukraine strike Russian logistical resources behind the front lines. Pistorius also announced the strengthening of Ukrainian air defense.
This year, Germany is allocating about 9 billion euros to Ukraine, and we will continue to support it at this level. From this amount, we are currently preparing a package worth 2 billion euros. It will include missile defense systems, advanced radar technologies, and ammunition. We are also, of course, participating in the Pearl program, investing $500 million. Air defense is the foundation of our support, and it has been so since the very beginning of the war.
More than half of NATO member countries have joined the Pearl Initiative, which provides for the purchase of weapons from the U.S. for Ukraine. This was reported by Politico, citing officials from the North Atlantic Alliance. Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Canada, Germany, and the Netherlands have pledged to allocate $2 billion as part of 4 separate Pearl packages. And Estonia, Lithuania, Latvia, Slovenia, and Finland, among others, are ready to finalize the 5th package. By the end of 2025, Russia could become 60% dependent on fuel imports. This was stated by the Ukrainian Foreign Intelligence Service. As a result of strikes by the Ukrainian armed forces on Russian oil refineries, the industry has lost a significant portion of its facilities, and the problem is quickly spreading beyond the fuel sector. The rise in gasoline prices affects transportation costs, which in turn drives up the prices of consumer goods. And combined with the increase in VAT, this will lead to a sharp acceleration of inflation, analysts predict. Victoria Chistiakina will continue on this topic.
Analysts note that the Russian economy is entering its most difficult period in recent years. Sanctions, falling revenues from energy exports, and strikes by Ukraine's defense forces on Russian oil refineries are all taking their toll. The shortage of investment and lack of production capacity are being felt more and more acutely. But the Kremlin is still trying to convince Russians that everything is stable in the Federation. The authorities don't see any problems in the domestic fuel market, said Deputy Prime Minister Novak. The absurdity of his statement is that there is already a severe gasoline shortage in more than 57 regions of Russia. Even in Tyumen, where oil is produced, gas stations are limiting customers to 30 liters per person.
On October 7th, a decree was issued stating that at a single gas station, you can only fill up a maximum of 30 liters.
Russian oil companies will feel the effects of drone strikes on refineries for almost a year, with every third refinery in the country having been affected since the beginning of August, according to experts from the International Energy Agency. According to the IEA's forecast, oil producers will not be able to resume refining oil at previous volumes until June 2026. After the drone strikes, which managed to hit more than 20 major refineries in Russia, oil refining volumes dropped by about 10%, according to a publication by the Moscow Times.
According to the International Energy Agency, as a result of the Ukrainian drone attacks, Russia's refining volume has decreased by at least 500,000 barrels per day. That is why the Russian government has banned fuel exports until the end of the year. And with each month, it increases the volume of imports.
The Russian government has classified most of the energy data, including information about refinery operations and the production of automotive fuel. And this makes it difficult to accurately assess the damage caused by the drones. In September, Russia increased its crude oil exports to 5.1 million barrels per day, which is the highest level since May 2023. Nevertheless, according to the agency's estimates, the country's oil export revenues fell to a 3-month low of $13.4 billion, according to a Bloomberg publication.
By the end of 2025, Russia could become dependent on fuel imports at a level of up to 60%, according to Ukraine's Foreign Intelligence Service. Russia has effectively lost a significant portion of its domestic capacity. And now, without foreign currency inflows, enterprises are deprived of resources for modernization, while price controls in the domestic market are creating an artificial shortage.
The fuel crisis engulfing Russia is not so much the result of isolated accidents or sanctions, but rather a reflection of the deep degradation of its energy model. Years of underfunding, technological isolation, and poor management decisions have turned a once profitable industry into a system that survives purely out of inertia. After the ban on gasoline exports in September, the Russian government tried to stabilize the situation, but this move only worsened the crisis. It was precisely foreign sales that allowed them to offset chronic losses and partially finance the industry's modernization. From a statement on the website of Ukraine's Foreign Intelligence Service,
Ukraine does not intend to give the aggressor country the 6 months to a year it needs to restore its oil refining capacity. And Kiev's partners are planning to ramp up sanctions pressure on Moscow. The European Union is preparing its 19th package of restrictions, which, according to Bloomberg, will target Russia's shadow tanker fleet, the Kremlin's main tool for circumventing sanctions.
Subscribe to UATV English and stay updated on the most important events, top news from Ukraine and all over the world, in-depth analysis, exclusive reports and interviews, all on hand in our channel. Join our community of viewers and stay tuned.